Welcome to the EatingCast. I am Chris.
And I'm Vincent. And today we are joined by Ivan Ng. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. So thank you for coming on. I know kind of like scheduling this was really difficult, and I'm just kind of like just working around what's currently going on in like Hong Kong and everything like that. We definitely are very appreciative of your time with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
So let's start off with, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you kind of shared your articles that was written about you. You're from Hong Kong, and then you went to Hawaii and California. Was that correct?
Yeah, pretty much back and forth the Pacific growing up.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So yeah, just kind of like give us like a quick rundown. Like, so Ivan, who are you? What do you do? What brings you, I guess, back to Hong Kong, and kind of like where your current like passions kind of like lie in.
Well, I'm currently a freelance photographer. I was working in California and recently just came back to Hong Kong in September to do my part in this protest and to also document.
Okay, awesome. So like I guess like with documenting everything that's going on in Hong Kong right now, like can you just kind of like give us like a insider perspective of like what's actually like going on? How severe is it, or how severe is kind of like the protest kind of like going on right now?
Well, excuse me.
You're fine.
It's actually kind of all over the place. What Western media? Well, what I think I'm pretty sure most people see what's happening through Western media, and all the things that they've been showing are actually happening, and they show the best of what they got, right? So the best footage they got, the best photos they have, and so everything everyone's been seeing overseas are usually pretty intense, pretty violent, and pretty massive scale wide. But it's actually it really depends on where you are and what time it is, because normal life is still happening. People are still going to work. There's still people that are going on with their daily entertainment. You know, people are still tourists are still coming in. Not a lot, but tourists are still coming in. Businesses are still open. People are still going to work, doing their daily things. People are not college students, but since colleges are pretty much done for the whole semester, people like elementary, middle schools, and high schools are still going to school. And as I said, there's still trade shows happening. There's still other stuff like local events or concerts that are still happening. So it's not like the entire city is on fire 24/7.
Yeah, that's what they make it seem like.
Yeah.
A lot of things are still functioning. And to be honest, if you're just doing your thing and you're not sure what's happening, which is not possible, but you won't be surprised if you're just walking around and then all of a sudden the next street is filled with people and there's like smoke coming out of it. But then like another block down, things are still pretty normal. You know?
Yeah. Is Blue Morning Post, that's Eastern media, right?
You mean South China Morning Post?
South China Morning Post, is that what it's called? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Their logo is blue and yellow.
Yeah. It's crazy because like I think they had an article saying like how one day, you guys have all these I don't want to say like remnants of the protests, right, of the action, and then the next morning like it's all cleaned up like real quick.
So when we see riots or like large scale protests on global media, I can be wrong, right? Just for me myself, when I usually see news like these, they take place in like places like South America or like Africa, maybe like some not so developed cities
Yeah,
are
like a third
usually
world country.
where I see these things happening.
Mhm.
And Hong Kong is, at the end of the day, Hong Kong is a developed place.
Mhm.
It's a place with lots of money, lots of educated people,
Yeah.
and it's a major city. So at the end of the day, even though living conditions can be harsh for a lot of people, as in like things being too expensive, people still have a place to live. They still have
Mhm.
enough to eat. They may not. They may have a hard time affording good housing and struggling to maintain a healthy lifestyle. But the majority of the city, the people of Hong Kong,
Mhm.
are still receiving good education, living a good life compared to the rest of the world, still have enough to eat, and etc.
Mhm.
So the level of violence can only reach a certain level,
Right.
right?
It's like the Asian in
And
us, you know, we make a mess and then we clean it up.
Oh my
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, like a let's say it's in a nice way. It's just hard for First of all, I just said being Asian itself is really really hard for Asian people
Mhm.
to reach a certain level of violence and barbaricness, if that's a word. You know what I mean?
Right. We don't even
So
speak up like to begin with. So this is like different, you know?
I'm sorry.
Like I feel like in most Asian people, we have a hard time like speaking up for ourselves. So this like protest in and of itself, you know, when you say the city has spoken, it's also kind of going against that norm of like Asian people don't ever speak up against, you know, the masses, but now you guys are, and then that's like changing that, you know what I mean?
I think a um, that's just something that Asian Americans experience
Mm,
because I don't think there's a problem with people speaking up in Hong Kong,
okay.
Mhm.
and so I don't think that's ever a problem. But if you want to address the point where like people are finally speaking up, is let's just say that people in Hong Kong are very caught up in their everyday lives. It's a very busy place.
Mhm.
People have a hard time trying to keep up. It's hard to like. There's so much happening in the city that people in Hong Kong usually just get so caught up in their everyday lives that they become numb to a lot of things, especially politics.
Mm,
Mhm.
And then which leads to a lot of problems not being addressed or a lot of people not coming out to keep the government in check.
what what sparked the protests in Hong Kong?
Uh, protest the protests in Hong Kong was sparked by a proposal of this bill called the extradition bill, which will allow many countries, or if the bill were to pass, it will allow many countries, including China, to extract criminals from Hong Kong to be tried in their country. So,
Mhm.
so if a Hong Kong citizen committed a serious crime, say in the UK, then the UK government, after multiple processes, can extract the so-called criminal to be tried where the person committed a crime. Because
Okay.
there's laws currently there's no solid laws that really allow this process to happen in Hong Kong at the moment.
Okay. So then, like, is with the speed up of kind of like the extradite
Extradition.
extradition bill. So that's causing like a lot of the current havoc that's kind of a lot of the protests that are currently happening in Hong Kong.
A lot of people were against the bill
Yeah.
in the beginning. So like back in like March, April, a lot of people there's a lot of public noise forcing their objection with this bill because they fear that because with this bill, one of the countries in the list of countries that can extract criminals is China,
Hmm.
and there's huge distrust towards China because
Hmm.
many people fear it's just fear, right? It might not happen immediately or it might not ever happen, but the fear is that if this bill passes, then China can pretty much extract people that commit a crime
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Hmm.
out of Hong Kong.
Right. And then you said, so when did the very first, you said the very first protest started early March, right?
That's when people start. That's when there's a lot of noise
Right.
began, and people started like objecting it. And there's been like rallies and like activists, and pretty much like a lot of people were just talking about it and saying how this can lead to this, how this is good, how this is bad,
Uh-huh.
and then ultimately the government managed to push forward with the bill, and then in June in June 9th there was a big march, and the purpose of the march was for people to voice their objection for this bill,
Right.
and back then it was probably one of the largest rallies Hong Kong ever had. Around 1 million people came out, which is okay. That's cool. You know, a lot of people came out to voice their objection for this bill. 1 million people. 1 million people sound a lot, but that's almost 1/7 the population of Hong Kong. So that's like more than 10% of the
Mhm.
population came out.
Is June 9th, is that when it started, the Hong Kongers started to get a little bit more like aggressive with their demands, pretty much? Was that the turning point?
So no. So back then everything was just normal. It was just a rally where the turnout was huge. And everything for the most part was peaceful. Right? There's definitely conversation. Maybe like some people had a fight there and there. Maybe some people were really aggressive and had a few conflicts with the police. But
Mhm.
for the most part, a lot of people came out, did their march, and went home. And what happened was on the same night that the march took place, Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong, came out to make an announcement saying pretty much like, we knew and we saw a lot of people came out today,
Mhm.
and this is why Hong Kong is a good place, because there's your right to protest, your right to express your concern, etc., etc. But then like she ended her press conference saying that like moving forward we will now expedite the bill. So back in June, Hong Kong was in summer. It's very hot and humid, and it's really uncomfortable to be out in the streets. So you have all these people who came out to voice their opinion, but also like they were sweaty. It was hot. It was not
Mhm.
comfortable. And then now you tell them like, "Thank you, noted. We're gonna pass the bill still."
Faster.
So
Faster.
faster now. We're gonna expedite
Yeah.
now. So that definitely got a lot of people angry. So now what? So now the government's gonna pass the bill. They're gonna expedite the bill. They're gonna expedite the bill and push it for a second hearing, which is the process, on June 12th.
Mhm.
So people were like, "Wow, okay, we can't let this bill pass."
Yeah.
So people decided to. So the people of Hong Kong decided to surround the legislative building. There's a building called the LegCo, which is like the White House in Hong Kong, I guess, the government
Mhm.
building. So on June 12th, a lot of people went to pretty much surround the Legislative Council building, so that people can't go in, so that the legislatures can't go in to move forward with the process. So a lot of on June 12th, a lot of people came out. The whole area was packed with people. People were pretty much holding the building siege
Mhm.
to prevent the process from happening, and that led to um, if I remember correctly, kind of like a mop-up operation by the police, where the
Mhm.
police came out with, where riot police came out to disperse the crowd, and the method they used, the people of Hong Kong did not like. They believed it was too, for what it was too violent and too aggressive, and that was a turning point, pretty
Mm,
much, June 12th.
hmm
Where
And you were in Hong Kong at this point, right? You were documenting.
so I was in California.
Oh,
Just
okay. So when did you go to Hong Kong?
I so this whole thing dragged on from June to July to August
Hmm
and to September.
Mhm.
And at that point, so much has happened already. I myself as a Hong Konger couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to just drop everything I have to fly back to do my part in this,
hmm
but to also document, because at that point, it this whole movement has already reached a point of no return.
Right.
Like something big is going to happen at the end, whenever it was, and whatever happens, it will be in history textbook. It might be
Yeah.
a paragraph, it might be a page. I don't know. It will be. It has to be in some textbook at some time in the future. So,
Yeah.
and this is like really important for the history of Hong Kong. So for me, like I have to be part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
How did it make your parents feel when you decided to leave the States? Because I know you had a better job, right?
I wouldn't say better job, but it's not bad. It's okay, right? But
Right.
my parents decided to leave Hong Kong after the handover, because so after the handover, a lot of people in Hong Kong don't believe that things will remain the way it is.
Mhm.
They don't that Hong Kong will prosper under China. So a lot of people left Hong Kong out of fear or lack of confidence, etc., etc. That's and I was part of the first group that emigrated out of Hong Kong,
Mhm.
and we immigrated to California. We settled down, and eventually I became a U.S. citizen. So now I'm a dual citizen. So like when all this started happening, I'm pretty sure my parents are like secretly just kind of like laughing, because they knew, or not laughing, but like pencils in the back, because they're like,
Yeah.
right, the gamble was worth it, because now that this is all happening, my children can have a great education, have a comfortable life in the U.S., safe
hmm
from all this. Yes. I mean, it's not like Hong Kong is breaking down, or like think people are, it's just like, yeah. So then they were glad that me and my sister are in the U.S. So when I told them that I'm gonna come back, of course they were pretty unhappy.
Mhm.
And plus, being not tech savvy, and like kind of part of the uh, older age group, they see everything happening in Hong Kong more severe as what it is. So naturally, they were pretty unhappy that I'm going back.
Yeah. What is it like for you to be on the front lines as a photographer?
Um,
I would assume you also experience like close danger too, right?
yes, it's definitely very dangerous. Um, so before I went, I was definitely worried, concerned, because like things seem pretty dangerous. I don't know I don't know how I can fully protect myself, but like everyone else is in the front, so
Mhm.
should be fine, right? When I so like before I first ever stepped foot in the front lines, there's definitely a lot of fear and like concerns. But for me, once I was in the front and once things started happening, it's I would say eh, like because like once I start doing my thing, I get really into it, and then
hmm
become in the zone, I guess. So it's when stuff happens in the front, I'm just like, okay, this is happening. I'm just gonna try my best to um to just capture and get the bigger picture and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What has anyone been like detained by the police after protests, like after the nights? You know, like if they like catch your identity, has that happened to anyone yet?
Maybe has anyone with me or like I don't get it. Like has
Anyone. For the Hong Kong people that participate in the protests. And let's say after life resumes in the city, do police still try to go after them if they catch you, if they know who you are?
okay, well to date there's been over, if I'm updated, 5,500 people arrested to date since June.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It has now reached a point where they are abusing the power of arrest.
Hmm.
Yes, the people they arrest most likely have participated, but legally, a lot of those arrests, are not going to be, how do I say it? Out of the 5,000 plus people that are arrested, at least 4,000 of them will be unable to be charged in court.
Hmm. So they were like
Because-
unjustified arrests.
Yes, that's the word, unjustified arrest. Because yes, maybe some people changed their clothes very quickly and then ran, and when they're running away, they got caught.
Mm.
From a legal standpoint, they could be like, "I was just walking by. Look, there's no evidence of me in the protest because I was covered up, but because everyone was covered up in all black, but you arrested me wearing like I don't know Hollister and neon jeans, that kind of stuff. How
Mhm.
can you prove that that was me? Or this is a video of someone throwing stuff. Well, yeah, I was not wearing that hat. I was not wearing the hoodie, and you can't even see your face. So legally, assuming that the judicial part of Hong Kong is not corrupted, you can't really charge him
Mm.
for whatever crime. And they also like throw how do I say it?
Have you seen corruptions in among the Hong Kong like police force? I'm sure, right?
I wouldn't say corruption, but like I've been on the front, and so I've been on the front, so I constantly will be standing near or next to the police, and this is my opinion. I don't think they're acting. I don't think it's actually my opinion. It's actually a fact. There's my observation. There's images and there's videos on the internet. These so-called police aren't even acting professional anymore
Mhm.
because they talk back to you. They make jokes. They criticize you. They they defame anyone they see in sight, verbally or with action.
Mhm.
And for me, I think a police is just someone who enforces the law and maintains order.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have the power or right to insult or defame anyone or to treat anyone that's not yet proven guilty as a criminal. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. So I guess I get like my question now, right? Like kind of with the protests and everything like kind of dragging on for so long, and recently with I guess President Trump's signing of the bill, I believe it was the Hong Kong uh,
The Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act.
hmm yeah. So like with the signing of that bill, has or did you notice like anything like any type of shift in terms of like violence or like intensity within like I guess the police kind of like controlling the protests as well as kind of like protesters like reactions to police?
Yeah, so this bill has been in discussion, I think, since the beginning of September. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But every time there's major news about this bill that came out, I noticed the attitude of the police and the government changes and tones down. So I remember when the bill was passed in the House. It was passed in the House, I think, right before some rallies. And at the rally, I see big change in police attitude. For example, they were more polite and more what's that word? Like more self-control. But then soon they'll just spiral back down to like out of control and rude. But then after the Senate passed it, then again you see their behavior more diluted, more back to normal, just a little bit. And then now, I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry.
Oh, yeah. And then it just spiraled out of control again and became even worse. And then now that it's passed, now that the bill is passed, surprisingly, all the rallies and marches that people apply for, because starting in August, police have been banning marches and rallies. Because to have a rally and march in Hong Kong, you need to first register it, and the police has to approve it. And protesting is a right. Is a right in Hong Kong. So the police does not ban any march or rally unless there's a big reason for them to do so. For example, I'm gonna march through this road that's under construction. Then the police would be like, well, how about you change your route because this route is dangerous, and then they approve it. But otherwise, all rally and marches, the police approves it, and the approval process is pretty much not like yes or no. It's just like, let's make sure this becomes a safe event, and we'll modify it, and we'll recommend you to change your event or whatever depending on safety, and then we'll let you do it. Rejecting is not a thing, pretty much, unless it's like, I insist on marching through this dangerous street, and I know it's dangerous. Okay, fine, reject, right? But since August, they've been rejecting pretty much almost all rally and marches for multiple reasons that they believe. But once the bill is passed last week, all the marches and rallies have been approved. But then like approved marches doesn't mean that the police won't do things to jeopardize its safety.
Yeah.
Right. Is the Chinese government still in that small city outside of Hong Kong, like the border, right?
What do you mean?
From what I remember, like the Chinese government sent an army to sit next to like the border of Hong Kong. Am I correct or wrong?
Yeah, that happened in like August. But
is it still there? Are they still there?
Truth to be told, no one really followed up with that because the truth is, the people of Hong Kong are not scared of the army because they know that the army won't come down ever. Like, despite all the threats that the Chinese people make, the people of Hong Kong know that it won't ever happen because they know that if the army does come to Hong Kong, then the people that actually will face the consequences are everyone else but them.
Right.
Because then, supposedly then, companies overseas will react to it. They might lose trust in the city. They might lose a lot of things that pretty much won't affect the people of Hong Kong will happen.
Okay.
So every time the Chinese government threatens to use military, the people of Hong Kong will either just ignore it or like goes out through one ear or just like make jokes out of it.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
And then in the city, currently the residents, do you see any signs of like, I guess discrimination against someone who would speak Mandarin or someone who would speak Cantonese? Because my friends who said they visit Hong Kong, they see some business owners would turn down customers because of like accents or even if they spoke a different dialect.
Yeah, and especially now because since the whole thing has started, less and less mainland Chinese tourists and individuals has been appearing in the city. So if they do appear, it's even more easy to identify them.
Mm.
So while I think a business owner rejecting their business is a rare thing, I think that the chance of that happening is very low. But a business owner might, take them in, but in their head be like, "Ugh, I don't like you." You know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's there's a myth that like if you speak Chinese or European difference, you automatically be like targeted, get assaulted, or like be hit.
Hmm.
But like from what I observed, you can if you have different opinions and you express them, people might yell at you, people might boo at you, but um, I don't think you'll be hurt if you don't make the move to hurt someone.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's definitely people that will make faces or like roll their eyes if someone that appears to be from mainland China appears in their near vicinity.
Hmm. Who would you say currently are like the allies of the protesters, and then who are the enemies? Because I know from the Southeast Morning Post, they talked about like these guys in white T-shirts or black T-shirts, and they're actually like sent from China or like they hired thugs or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the dynamics of this whole protest with the whole for the whole protest, the dynamics of people and other institutions rapidly changes. So like for all the questions that I've been asked, the answers that I will give now and the answers that I will give you next week will completely be different.
They
And
change, yeah.
in some cases, it won't even be relevant anymore.
Right.
Mhm.
Because back in July, a group of gangsters in white came out to attack to pretty much attack people that were in the subway, and they claimed that they're targeting people in black shirts because they're protesters.
Mm.
While this is a still a big event, people are still healing from it.
Mhm.
Like the whole black shirt, white shirt thing isn't really discussed or concerned or thought anymore. But, like to answer the question, like who are the people in white? You mean, or like who?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering the distinction because all I know is white T-shirt people and people in black T-shirts. Like that's all I knew. Yeah.
Hmm,
But I mean, you
Uh-oh.
pretty much answered the question.
okay.
And then I know one of the questions we have here is, what's the significance of the five demands and not one less?
Um, so I guess I'll just repeat the five demands again. The five demands are first to retract the extradition bill, two to it used to be to retract the characterization of riot for the events of June 12th, but the overall it's just like retract to not call anything or establish anything as riot. That's number two.
Mhm.
Number three is to establish an independent police investigation, an independent inquiry into police action. So like an independent investigation. And fourth is to release. It used to be release or pardon all the people arrested on June 12th.
Mhm.
Now it's just pretty much pardon everyone that's been involved. And fifth, to immediately establish universal suffrage. Okay, so first of all, the 5 demands, the so-called 5 demands, everyone has their own opinion / version of their own 5 demands.
Mhm.
There's no one written set of 5 demands that people demand. So what I think the 5 demands are versus what my friends think the 5 demands are different, but not too different.
Yeah.
Some people even believe that there should be 6 demands. So while everyone's goals are different,
Mhm.
they're not too different.
Right. They're all
They're
on,
not
pretty
too-
much on the same page, right?
They're all on the same page pretty much.
Yeah.
And while everyone's version of their 5/6, maybe 7 demands are different,
Mhm.
it still leads to the same ultimate goal, which is to fight for universal suffrage.
Right.
So then now you have the opposing side where people might criticize Hong Kong for trying to fight for independence, or saying that they're trying to they're using immature means or immature thinking to argue or strive for things that are impossible. But while everyone's version of the demands are different, they're pretty much mostly the same, and everything that people have been demanding for by far is legal, doable, and reasonable, and within the basic laws. And the Hong Kong basic law is pretty much the equivalent of the U.S. Constitution, or the amendments. The amendments.
Yeah. Oh, you know
So
what? That. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, so everything that people have been asking for either has been done before, slash it's totally legal and doable, right? So, withdrawing a bill. Withdrawing bills is a common process in any government, right?
Mhm.
That's done already. Okay. Retract the label of riot in anything. That's just like personal opinion, right? You can call it a riot, you cannot call it a riot. It won't really matter much. The only thing where I see it matters is people's pride, or like what they think is right or wrong, and also in the case of insurance, because most insurance, whether it's a company event, personal property, or like whatever insurance, a lot of these insurance policies don't cover anything if they fall under the label of riot.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that got hurt, arrested, got their properties damaged, etc., might want the characterization, right? Want the government to say it's not a riot. So if the government say it's not right, they're like, "Yo, agent, the government said it was not right. I want to pursue my claim again." Right? That's the smallest concern. Least concern of all the rest of the things. And, yes.
No, keep going. Go ahead.
Independent inquiry of police action. So, a lot of people in Hong Kong believe that at first the police action was questionable and unacceptable, but now it's gotten to a point where people just does not believe the police is even doing anything right anymore. So while some people are still calling for independent investigation to investigate all the wrong things that the police have done in the past, some people instead will want to, instead of saying independent investigation, they will call for restructuring of the police. They will call for disbandment of the police, like to just like fire everyone and restart the whole thing. So I guess the third demand is to either look into, punish, or reform the whole police, which is done before, because I believe that in Mexico, not too long ago, a whole police forces was disbanded and reassembled because of corruption or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's doable. Either look into or do something to deal with the public's distrust of the police. I think there has to be a solution. It's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Pardon all crimes. So originally it's to pardon the crimes of June 12th, but now a lot of people want everyone arrested to be pardoned because they believe this whole thing was to keep the government in check. They believe that as people of Hong Kong, they have the right to defend their rights and to pursue what was already promised to them. So a lot of them believe that they didn't do anything wrong. So, but then like some people are like, oh well, some people vandalize, some people like hurt other people. That's a different debate. But like there has been a mass pardon done before. I think in 1967 there's big riots in Hong Kong, and it ended with like a lot of people being pardoned. I think, if I remember correctly, people still had their criminal sentence, like their criminal felony charges, but I think a lot of them didn't really go to jail. I need to look into that. But like, with that said, a pardon on a massive scale has been done in front of Hong Kong. So a lot of people think that it's still doable. Plus, of all the people arrested, more than half of them aren't even justified arrested.
Right.
So, like, a teacher that got arrested on June 12th was charged for rioting, and recently he finished his legal process. He was charged as not guilty. So, like, if someone was on site on June 12th and can't even be charged as riot, it's gonna be hard for other people arrested later on to be charged for other crimes. You know?
Yeah.
And then last but not least, elections. Oh, universal suffrage is part of the common law, common law, a basic law of Hong Kong. Like the whole process of election is in the Constitution of Hong Kong. It's in there, black and white. So, for that to happen, which is supposed to happen, is something that will have to be done.
Right.
And none of these five demands strive for so-called Hong Kong independence or destroying Hong Kong. I mean, unless you think if you think that Hong Kong people voting for their own leader is striving for independence, then you're right. Then they're striving for independence. But then, like, not everyone has the same view.
Thanks for sharing that. So before we wrap up, actually, we have a few questions from the audience. So let's kind of go through those. It's perfect that you mentioned the Constitution because this guy named Matt, he said, what impact would the Second Amendment, like we do in the U.S., have on Hong Kong? So the right to bear arms. Do you think that would affect the protests differently? Do you think Hong Kongers would, like, if they had the chance, kind of just go up guns blazing?
You mean how it would be different if Hong Kong people have the right to bear arms?
Yeah.
It definitely will be a lot more violent. And if the people of Hong Kong have guns, then things will definitely be a lot more serious. And I think if the government and China is unwilling to back down, they are more likely to be forced to use military force to end the conflict if they refuse to concede to demands of the people of Hong Kong.
Sherry asked, she's also a resident of Hong Kong, why has the Chinese government not done anything to react to these protesters? And does the Chinese government really think the protesters will back down?
I think the Chinese government has definitely done a lot. in reacting to this protest. There's been a huge surge of what we call wumaos, or like internet trolls, that's been spreading comments and unpopular opinions that go against the people of Hong Kong and their actions. And since the protest has begun, there's been a surge of dead bodies found in the city. More than 200, I believe, to date. And a lot of people believe that these dead bodies were people that are arrested in Hong Kong and killed by either people in China or Chinese police, or a lot of people like to think that there's Chinese police mixed in with the Hong Kong police, which has led to many people arrested being killed. So obviously, I don't know the truth. I don't know if it's true or not, but there definitely has to be an explanation to this sudden surge of dead bodies found all over the city,
Mm-hmm.
where their cause of death is suspicious, but the police would insist that there's no suspicion.
So the follow-up question to that was, how do you guys deal with traitors amongst yourselves?
So there's no such things really, because there's been other so-called movements in the past. There's been the Umbrella Revolution in 2014. There was a movement called the Fishball Revolution in 2016, 2017. And the reason why those past two movements failed was because people failed to reach a consensus, failed to agree with one another, and everyone had different methods to achieving their goals. So in 2014, there were a group of people who were who were violent, and those that were anti-violent did not agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who have different opinions on how certain things should be done, etc., that led to like dissolution amongst the protesters. So learning from the mistakes of the past two protests in Hong Kong history, it's really interesting because this whole thing started with because I think the New York Times magazine said it really good, that this whole movement was leaderless by design. So from June to now, everything that's happened was the consensus of the majority.
Mm.
There might have been like activists that came out to speak or organize things, but to this point, there's no single leader or a group of leaders that are in charge and make decisions for people. Everything happens today are all consensus and agreement of the majority.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And learning from the failures of 2014 and 2017, there's kind of like how to say it, an oath, or like a
like an unspoken rule.
Unspoken rules. So since June, there's been many unspoken rules that have been established. And what if fews are like I don't know how to say it in English, but like non-splitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what happens, no matter how serious it is, if someone does something that you don't like or is very unsettling, but if that action is oriented with everyone else's goals, you would accept it.
Right. And how do you guys, what are like means of communication? How do you guys communicate goals, objectives, and I guess methods even? If you don't want to say, you don't have to say that.
Well, I mean, it's not a secret, but like there's a online platform called Ligg, Lighk, and it's pretty much Hong Kong's version of Reddit. It pretty much functions the same, almost like Reddit, but the only difference is to use like G, you have to like have a proof that you're like local.
Mm-hmm.
So while anyone online can open it and look through it and read it, which is mostly Chinese, you can't really comment or like post stuff unless you have an account. And again, account you have to be local, and there's ways to vet that. So like as we all know, Reddit has the upvote feature, right? So if someone says something and it gets enough upvotes, it will reach the main page. And then that's how consensus are made, right? So if someone makes a post, like anyone, like because just like Reddit, anyone and on the platform is anonymous, and you always change your name, and et cetera, et cetera. Someone will post, "Hey, let's occupy the airport on Monday."
Mm-hmm.
You write it, you post it, right? People see it, they upvote it, they downvote it. And people even comment on it. If it gets enough engagement, it will eventually reach the main page, the top, right?
Right.
And that's people will see it, and more people will either agree or disagree with it. So then, like, if someone gets enough votes, then you know that this is it. But that was the beginning, right? So like, over this whole movement, the use of the app called Telegram has grown. So at first, it was just use of like a way to like spread news and information. But over time, small Telegram groups. So Telegram's the chatting platform. It's like Line, Kakao Talk. But what's so special about Telegram is that anyone can make an account and be anonymous. You need a phone number, you need an address, you can be completely anonymous. And over time, small Telegram groups have been created with purposes. So for example, someone created a Telegram group for volunteer drivers. And then someone created a Telegram group for to make posters, graphic designs. And then someone make Telegram groups for donations. Right? Over time, those groups start to get more and more people joining them. And eventually, there's many groups with different purposes that exist on Telegram. And everyone or at least like 2 or 3 of them, right? So eventually, everyone has their own role in this whole movement. So I am a 40-year-old person that I have a car. So I joined a car group. So in this movement, I am now a driver, right? Someone who is an artist, like who can do really good graffiti, is in the graffiti group. So now their role in this group is to do graffiti or something related to it. Right. There's even groups for neighborhoods, right? Every neighborhood or community or the districts of Hong Kong has their own group. So now, even if the platform like G is down, and the government shuts it down, which is pretty hard for them to do, you can't really stop the whole movement because people already have their own groups on whatever already.
Yeah.
So like because the platform like G since August has constantly been attacked by outsiders through like DDoS attacks.
Yeah.
So that platform normally usually slow or like you can't even log in, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really work anymore because people already have their own groups. And within the groups, there's bigger groups and so on and so on and so on.
Right, and they communicate amongst themselves, right? Okay, so next question. This is from my dad. He was just a little more curious. He says, what happens by 2047 if the revolution fails? What would you guys do at that point?
Well, so this is why I think, right? I think if so since June, the level of police brutality, suppression, and government corruption has increased and more often seen. I think if this is to end, that that those aspects like corruption and brutality will not drop. I think I personally think that this was a good opportunity for Hong Kong and China to step up their level of oppression. It gives an excuse to like step it up. So if this movement fails, I think that won't change. The level of oppression will remain, and the level of government corruption will also remain and eventually get worse. And eventually make Hong Kong into like some sort of, I don't know how to explain it, like a doppelganger city, where the government and institutions will make everything look like it's normal and doing great, but in reality, the people of that's living inside are no longer Hong Kong people, but like Chinese people doing stuff.
So kind of like a social camouflage.
Yeah.
More or less.
The camouflage. Yeah. So I think if this movement fails, if this movement fails, it would be a lot harder for this many people to reunite again and do the same thing. But likewise, it's at this point it's really hard for this to fail because so many people in Hong Kong, I believe more than half of the city, are now on the same page.
Yeah.
So, I don't think this is a matter of winning or losing. It's just how long will this fire continue?
Right.
And personally, I think that to look at this more broadly, I don't think China will end Hong Kong's special status because I believe China is taking advantage of Hong Kong's special status to benefit itself and vice versa.
Right.
Because there's always been news saying Shenzhen or Shanghai or Singapore will replace Hong Kong, etc. But the fact is it hasn't yet, and it won't likely be replacing Hong Kong because what foreign investors like about Hong Kong is it's a pretty free place, right? Freedom in terms of human rights, freedom in terms of the open market.
Yeah.
The regulations are not very as tight. So because such values exist, they believe that it's a safe place for the money to be at. So I would say that, let's say people don't succeed this time, or don't succeed in general, in 2047, China will take Hong Kong back. It will probably change Hong Kong to the way China likes it. China will probably modify Hong Kong to its likeness, but keep, or like I say, camouflage it as if it's still the same place.
Yeah.
And keep its status, but also impose new laws like change some laws so that you can't mock the party, or change some laws so you have more control of the internet.
Yeah. So China will have more control.
Yeah, but slowly, very, 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 very slowly do it, because if all of a sudden, if overnight they change city, then people will be like, whoa, not good, I'm out, right? But if you do it little by little, then it would be like, so let's say you're a company investing in Hong Kong, right? If they make small changes to Hong Kong,
the company can adjust and adapt, right?
Well, yes, but also let's say you have money in Hong Kong, you're a foreign company. You're not gonna, if you take everything out, you lose a lot of money too, right? You have losses. So you're not gonna make such a big decision over a small change. So if they gradually change Hong Kong, then most likely foreign investors will just decide it'd be easier to stay than leave. And eventually, these small changes will rack up. But at that point, people will be like, I'll stay anyway.
Okay, so last question. This is from Nihar. And he asks, how are the Hong Kong people feeling right now? Are they happy about the outcome? What's next?
feel great. At this point, if someone were to, so at this point, if an event or a march were to be announced, people no longer worry if people will come out. Like it's already taken for granted that at least 200K people will show up, right? Like there's not much doubts anymore in terms of who's on their side. Like the people of Hong Kong are not worried anymore if people are against them, because they already know that it's already like established that most of the world and most of the people of Hong Kong are on their side.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't need to worry about people against them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They also don't need to worry about people not showing up or not participating. So, and like, especially from the past election 2 weeks ago, the majority of the city, personally, I believe it's, well, like, from the results, it says, from the election results, 60% are pro-democracy and 40% are pro-Beijing. But I know myself that the pro-Beijing party fake ballots.
Oh.
And they do it all the time. And every single year, it's the same. They use the same trick. They give elders gifts. They use empty houses and use those as addresses to apply for election. It's the same trick every year. It's just that, like, it's just hard to like call out on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that even though the results are 6-4, I believe it's 7-3 at most. I think out of the 7 million in Hong Kong, 5 million of them are for this movement. I think it's 5-7, but maybe it's 4-7. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's no longer any doubt anymore in the Hong Kong people. There's just anger and frustration because the government still denies the government still refused to respond to demands, but the government also still acts like as if this is all just people making a mess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and especially with now the bill passed, there's more confidence amongst people now. So while we know that it's not the end, it's not over yet, but like overall the whole atmosphere is positive.
Good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So as we're wrapping up, the final thing we would like for you is, what is one bit of advice you would like to leave our listeners? It could be a life advice, anything.
How about advices?
Okay,
Sure.
we're done for that. Yeah.
To always keep your government in check. But how about this? The advice I want to give you guys is the people, the government works for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The people are the ones that are in control of the government, not the other way around. If you don't like something, fix it and change it. But if you are not allowed or you can't fix it and change it, then something is wrong.
Mm.
So the government exists to serve you. The government is your servant, never the other way around. And if it is, then something is wrong. And if someone ever has different opinions about what you do, but it doesn't affect them, then don't really listen to it. Or don't let it affect you too much.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Any social media you would like to plug into this podcast and for the listeners to follow or check out your work?
Follow me on Instagram, TAO033.
Awesome. So again, Ivan, we just want to say thank you for coming on. I know, again, scheduling and everything like that was very difficult to kind of like work around and coordinate. And again, we do appreciate your time, taking out an hour of your day just to kind of like come on and just chat with us a little bit. And for our listeners, we just want to thank all of you guys for watching. And for all of you guys that are listening on our social media platforms, we definitely thank you for listening as well. Mm-hmm. And Vince, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, leave a comment on our platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook page, Instagram. We definitely appreciate all your feedback, and we like to kind of involve you guys more, have you guys participate more, and overall, like Chris said, thank you for watching and supporting us. Okay.
Awesome. And with that said, we will see you in the next one, and
Bye-bye.
Take care.